Hi, my name is Brady, and this is going to be a little bit of a different video than I'm usually used to doing. I usually do some semi walkthrough content, and today is going to have some walkthrough elements, but this video is not intended to be a walkthrough, and I'll explain what that means here in just a minute. So the lab that we're going to be talking about today is EscapeTwo from Hack the Box. This is a machine that was used in the competitive season 7 for Hack the Box, and I completed this with my Hack the Box CTF team, which was the Hack Smarter CTF team. However, the focus of this video is actually going to be the cleanup scripts that are running on the EscapeTwo machine. So the cleanup scripts are actually to facilitate multiple users being on the same machine at the same time, which is pretty common on Hack the Box for their machines. They don't want people to be walking over each other and doing actions that'll be destructive to other users that are also trying to complete the machine. And while this machine was live, I saw people in our team that were kind of struggling with these cleanup scripts running in the background. Obviously, they didn't know that they were running because they hadn't rooted the machine yet. However, it seemed like the machine was deleting some of their progress, which led people to say that the machine was not working or it was buggy or it was annoying. But I'm actually going to try to make the case for why proper offensive tradecraft can actually help you get around some of these annoyances. So with that being the case, that's going to be the focus of the video. So it's not going to be a direct walkthrough. I'm not going to show any of my enumeration steps or anything like that. There should be plenty of videos out on how to do that. So if you're looking for that, or if you're looking to do this machine in like I'm going to do the part that I can do and then watch for the video to try to see that. This is probably not the video for you because I'm going to be spoiling a lot of the machine up front. So with those disclaimers out of the way, we can go ahead and jump into the machine here. So we've got our nmap output just running for default scripts and service versions. Not going to talk too much about this, but just some things you would do right when you're starting out. So we can see that we've got domain services, we've got Kerberos, we've got LDAP, basically all the stuff you would expect to see on a domain controller. Something critical that we're going to want to grab here is the DNS name. So we've got this dco1.sql.htb or hack the box. So we're going to grab our IP address and we're just going to add all of that information to our Etsy hosts file. So let me copy that and get down here. Oops, etcd, that's not what we want. Never type and make a video. It's super hard. And then we can also grab our DNS name from up here. So DCO1 SQL hack the box, paste that here. And I'm actually going to paste it twice and just cut out this period here. And the result of that is that we get the IP address, we get the fully qualified domain name, we get our host name, and then our domain name here. So this way, when we're interacting with Kerberos, we'll have basically all the records that we need here. So this machine is actually a little bit different. It's an assumed breach type of machine. So we're going in with domain user credentials in the form of a username and password. So we've got rows and this guy right here, which is the password string. So what we can do is go ahead and run our Bloodhound just to have it running in the background. So let's make a directory for Bloodhound, and then we'll change directory to there. We're going to run Rusthound in this case because we don't have a shell to run Sharphound or anything like that. I think Rusthound has been working pretty well for me so far. So I'll run that and it's going to grab everything and then we'll start up Bloodhound and kind of get that running in the background. Okay, so I'm going to run my alias here for Bloodhound Community Edition and wants my sudo password, which is fine. All right, so quick jump cut here just to let all of our Docker stuff start up. We can go ahead and move over here to localhost 8080. And this will open up Bloodhound for us. We'll log in with admin and our password. And it should get us to our ingester. So we'll do the start by uploading your data. I'm going to have to zoom in here. Okay, so here we are on the file ingest page. We're just going to go to upload files, and then we're going to find the Bloodhound directory that we just created. We can dump all this stuff in there and say, yes, I really do want to upload this. And this will work in the background while we're looking at other stuff. So jumping back to our terminal here, we can go ahead and use our credentials that we have for this default user to run netexec. All right, I'm going to rerun this command just because it came out kind of nasty the first time. So we're running our SMB command in netexec to try to enumerate SMB shares using the Spider Plus module. You can see we have this accounting department non-default share that we have read access to. This is what is going to be critical for our next step here. And we're just waiting for the last part to come out so that we can see our Spider Plus output. And there it goes. We're just going to grab this file name here and we'll open that up in Sublime. Oops. Using a new keyboard here. Here we go. Okay. So we have our accounting department share. We see these two files, accounting 2024, and then this is the one that we want, the accounts.xlsx file. So we can go ahead and connect using SMB client. And we're just going to connect to the accounting department share. And if we list out the files here, we can see the account. We'll go ahead and get accounts. And we can exit out of here. So from here, since accounts.xlsx is a Microsoft Excel workbook, This is going to function as a zip archive that has a bunch of other files in it. So we can run bidwalk extract on the accounts file. And you can see we get all of these other files here. The most interesting of which is the shared strings.xml file. So if we're actually to open that one up using Sublime or something else, we can see we get this XML file, and it's got information. We see first name, last name, email, username, password. Password's going to be interesting. And then it gives us some default users. These are accounting department people from the show The Office. So we have like Angela and Oscar. But most importantly, we have this sa@sql.htb account. So this indicates to us that this is the administrator or the SQL admin for the MS SQL service. And then we have this password, MS SQL password. We can go ahead and verify that here in our terminal using netexec, and we'll just do local auth. So if we go ahead and run that, we get our fun pwned output. It says, hey, this is an admin. So now what we can do is we can prep a reverse shell to get access as this SQL admin user on the machine itself. The way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to go to revshells.com. And this is just a fun little tool that you can use that'll generate reverse shell output for you. So we need to put in our IP address, which is 10.10.14.120. Oops, I did not get my 0. I hit the wrong key. I'm learning a new keyboard layout here, so some of the typing in this video might be extra funky. But yeah, you can see we've got our 14.120 VPN IP address here. So we're just going to input that. We'll go to port 9001 because it's over 9000. And then we'll get a Windows output. I like to use the PowerShell number 3 base 64. And it'll give us this nasty looking PowerShell string. We can just copy that, and then we're going to put it in our own file. So we'll call this shell.ps1. We'll just dump that in there. Let's turn word wrap on just so that we can see everything. And we can go ahead and save that. And this is just what the file looks like. It's just a encoded PowerShell command that we're going to run using our xpcmd shell capabilities. So because we have that password for the SQL admin account, we can do something like impacket MS SQL client and use those credentials. We're going to log in here, and then we have the enable xpcmd shell command for the impacket MS SQL client. This basically just turns on xpcmd shell. It does it automatically for you, so you don't have to chain commands together. So that's kind of nice. And then what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to host our shell file. So I'm going to open up another view here. Let's go ahead and make sure that our shell.ps1 is here, and it is. Okay, perfect. I'm going to do a Python 3 HTTP server, and I'm going to have it on port 80 just for ease of use. And then we're also going to have to open up a listener. So let's do another one down here. And this will just be a netcat listener on port, and I think we did 9001. Yeah. So let's do 9001 for our listener. We can scooch this up a little bit because we don't really need that. And since xpcmd shell should be enabled, we can just go ahead and run this one-liner here. So it's going to invoke expression, new object net web client, download our file, and then run it in PowerShell. So we go ahead and run it there. We see our output here where it got the script, and then we have our shell open down here. So we can run like, who am I? And you can see that this is actually running as a domain user, the SQL service user. All right, from here, let's go ahead and hop up into our Bloodhound output. This should have come through by now. Oh, we can close out of rev shells. So let's go to Explore because it said complete. And we can just look for our domain users node. Let's see, I'm going to make this a little bigger because it's probably not coming through well in the video. So if we go expand our members, oops, funny aspect ratios. Okay, and I am going to have a quick flashbang here. So flashbang warning coming up. I have to turn off dark reader and then turn on the inbuilt dark mode. Otherwise, we aren't able to see the file names. All right, so going back to Explore here, we've got our domain users, and now we can see their names actually. So yeah, sorry about that. So now we have access to this SQL service user. And if you skip through the intro, this is the part where I'm going to spoil the whole path for the machine. So again, this is your final warning. If you don't want the whole machine spoiled for you right now, go ahead and either skip ahead or click away or watch somebody else's video or whatever the case may be. So right now we just got this SQL service user. This SQL service user is going to help us get the password for the Ryan account. And then this Ryan account is going to have permissions over the CA service account. And then from the CA service account, we're going to be able to request a certificate to get to the administrator account or an arbitrary account because we're going to have ESC4, which we'll talk about when we get there. But this is kind of the point in the video where we have to discuss why the scripts are actually a problem. So From SQL Service to Ryan is pretty simple here. So all we have to do is run a command here. We're just going to type out a SQL configuration file. So skipping enumeration again, we're going to type out SQL 2019 express8av enu SQL configuration.ini. And if we type that out, and we can close all these windows so that we can see that, we no longer need that. And we no longer need this. Okay, so if we see our file here, we actually get a password here for the SQL Service account. It tells us that we are SQL/SQL Service, and then it gives us this password here. We can check those credentials here using netexec. So we'll go ahead and paste that in. You can see, hey, we do get this one. The intended route here from SQL Service to Ryan is password reuse. So if we were to open up a users list, we'll call this users.txt, and we put in some of the accounts that we saw in the Bloodhound output. So like CA service, we had one called Michael. We had Oscar, or let's do Ryan first, and Oscar. We can save that. And then if we come back to here and we do our netexec account or netexec command again, and then we can do continue on success. And then we want to move back to here. And instead of just doing for the SQL Service user, we're going to do the users.txt file. So this is going to do a brute force where it checks that password against all of the users. And then if it finds a successful one, it'll continue. So we can run that. You see, oh, it doesn't work, but it does work here for Ryan. So this is a password reuse situation. This is kind of realistic, actually, because the Ryan user might be the user who uses SQL Service, the service account. So they might be like a lazy admin and they just want to use the same password for everything. So that's how you might get a password reuse situation like that. Okay, so if we jump back into our Bloodhound output, now we can do pathfinding. We want to go from Ryan to this CA service account. And yep, here it is down here. We can see, if we zoom out just a little bit, this Ryan account has the right owner permissions over the CA service account. So what you can do with right owner is you can make yourself the owner of the account. And then if you're the owner of the account, you can also add ACLs. So for example, you can make yourself have full control, or an arbitrary principal have full control. I don't know why you'd want to do that. But if you had like an OPSEC concern, you could. In this case, we're going to be adding permissions to the Ryan account so that we can get access to the CA service account. Now, if you click on this right owner edge here, we go to our Linux abuse, and I'm going to pull it up so my face isn't in the way. You basically have a few things you can do. So owner edit is what we're going to do to change the owner, and then we'll do DACL edit to change the ACLs. However, after this, we have a few options. We have targeted Kerberos, which this is not going to work because the password in this case is not going to crack. And then we have two other options, the force change password option and the shadow credentials attack. So this is the part of the video where I'm going to kind of make a case for why force change password is inferior to shadow credentials if you do have the capability to do either or. And this is where the cleanup scripts actually come into play. So if we go back to our terminal here, we're going to do a little bit of cheating. And this is just for demonstration purposes. So we're going to winrm as the administrator account. And don't look at that hash. That's privileged information. All right. What we're going to do is just add a backdoor user. So it's going to be called hi YouTube with a password of password123. We'll go ahead and add that to the local administrators group. And then we're going to run a third command here just to add a registry key that will turn on RDP. And that is just exclusively for like aesthetic reasons, because we want to use RDP to show the task scheduler here. And then we can RDP into the machine here. And we get a window. I'm going to keep this small because we're going to get a flashbang from the server manager here. Boom. Okay, there's the flashbang. So I'm going to get rid of this. We're going to have one more flashbang when I open up the task scheduler, and then I'll make this bigger. Okay. So task scheduler is open. All right, this is your last warning. Flashbang is incoming when I make this window way bigger. Okay, and there we are. We are nice and flashbanged. So if we check in our task scheduler library, we have two scripts that we have running here. We have cleanup script 1 minute, which actually is kind of funny. It's called 1 minute, but it runs every 2 minutes. And then we have cleanup script 5 minutes, which does in fact run every 5 minutes. We can close out of RDB here because I actually have these saved locally. So if I were to subble out my scheduled tasks directory, let's go ahead and make this much bigger. We can see we have our two scripts here. We have clean 1 minute and then clean 5 minute. So let's talk about what these scripts do. So the 1 minute script is the one we'll talk about first. So the first time it runs, it's going to export this Dunder Mifflin authentication certificate template. If it's already done it before, it's just going to say, hey, we have these files backed up already, and then it'll skip this part. But the first time it runs, it's going to export that template. And then every other time it runs, it's going to do the import template function. So basically all that's going to do is it's going to remove the certificate template, and then it's going to add it back from the template that it exported. So basically, if you've made any modifications to the Dunder Mifflin authentication template, you basically have 2 minutes before that is going to get reverted to its original state. Now, the other one here is the clean 5 minutes one. And this has a few different functions. So it's got disable XP-CMD shell, which obviously is exactly what it sounds like. It's got export ACL's CA service. So this is for the CA service account. It's going to do the same thing. If it's already done it before, it's just going to skip this. The first time it does it, it's going to back up the ACLs on the CA service account. And then it'll say, hey, we've exported those, and it saves them to files. Then it's got the revert ACL's CA service function. So it's actually going to restore the ACLs that it backed up to files. And then at the very end, it runs this net user CA service account, CA service, and then this account password. So if you have changed this password, which is what we're talking about here, because we do have the shadow credentials or force change password capabilities, if you've changed that password, you only have 5 minutes before that authentication is basically invalidated. So again, these cleanup scripts are because you're going to have multiple people in the same box. So for example, if I enabled CMD shell or XP CMD shell, I should say, you don't want this to just be enabled for everybody forever. You want it to revert so that other people have to do the thing to solve the machine. So this is the part where people in our Discord for the competitive team, because the competitive season is meant to be done as a team, people are saying, hey, my box keeps breaking. Like I've changed the password, but it's resetting it. And this is where we got the advice like, oh, hey, just do it fast. And like, yeah, kind of, but just do it fast is an inferior method to actually applying some tradecraft here that'll give us some persistence mechanisms that'll actually get around our passwords getting reset here. So I'll demo the first version here. So this is going to be changing the owner, which we had way up here, changing the owner, changing the ACLs so that we have full control. And then we'll be using a different tool here. We're going to use Bloody AD to change the password. So get rid of this directory because we won't be looking at that anymore. And I'm going to, because this is time sensitive, I'm going to put all of our commands here, and then we'll just run them back to back. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to run impacket owner edit. We're going to make the new owner of the CA service account Ryan. And these are the credentials that say that we can do this. And again, this is because we have the right owner permissions. So that'll be our first command that we're doing. I'm going back and forth because I usually just alt tab and don't use the mouse. Okay, so our next command is going to be the DACL edit command. We're going to use impacket DACL edit. We're going to write full control rights to Ryan over the CA service account. And then because we're going to be the owner by the time we run this command, we can provide our credentials and say, hey, we can do that. And then the last thing that we're going to do is use Bloody AD. And let me grab my command here. Bloody AD, targeting the host name, domain name, the username, Ryan. This is the credentials that say that, hey, we can do this because we'll have full control by this point. We're going to set the password of CA service to hi YouTube. And then we can log in using hi YouTube again for 5 minutes. So let's go ahead and do that here. We'll do impacket owner edit, and we can ignore all of the Python errors. In this case, the first time we run it, it still says domain admins is the owner. So we're just going to rerun that command. Yep. Okay. So now the owner is the Ryan account. We can run our second command here, which is the impacket DACL edit. Okay. So it's going to modify successfully. And then finally, we can run our Bloody AD command to change our password. Okay, password changed successfully. So at this point, the password for CA service should be hi YouTube. And we can validate that using netexec if we want. We could do nxc smb, and we'll get rid of some of this stuff. So we'll do the user for CA service, and the password is going to be hi YouTube. And theoretically, this should work right now, unless the script ran too fast. Okay, and it didn't. Perfect. So now the SQL.hdb account is set to hi YouTube. Take note, right now the time is 3:50. So we basically have 5 minutes. If we didn't know that we had the script, we think we're good here. We keep moving on, and then all of a sudden our authentication doesn't work anymore. But knowing what we know, we have 5 minutes before this gets reverted. So this is actually kind of realistic, actually, because if we change the password to the account, the admin who uses the CA service account might try to log in and do some stuff. And then they'll be like, oh, I can't do my stuff. I'm going to call the help desk, have them reset the password or whatever. And in that case, we are right back where we started. We can change the password again, I guess, but that's going to be way less efficient. So just to demo that, we're going to wait 5 minutes here, or I guess 4 minutes at this point. I'll just do a jump cut. You won't have to wait at all. But I'm just going to wait a few minutes here, and then I will rerun my netexec command just to show that the hi YouTube account or the hi YouTube password is no longer valid. Okay, so one jump cut later, I've actually run the command a couple of other times because the script is taking a little bit longer to run for some reason. But in 5 minutes of hack the box enumeration time, you're looking around trying to use your brand new hi YouTube credentials, and all of a sudden, if we run our command again, you can see the authentication is no longer valid. So we have status logon failure. So now at this point, you're like, oh my gosh, the box broke. This sucks. This is lame. The box is buggy, right? No, this is, remember our administrator was like, hey, I can't get into my service account. I'm going to call help desk, have them reset my password. And then to continue the metaphor, I guess we'll say that the help desk dude was security minded. And he said, hey, why is Ryan the owner of this account? We're going to set it back to the domain admins group. In this case, he's not going to change the owner edit permissions. So we can still do that. And now we're going to do the secondary shadow credentials method, which again, I think is the superior method. Because this is a reset, we're going to have to do our owner edit and DACL edit commands again. So we're going to do those, but this time we're going to do shadow credentials. Now, shadow credentials you can do using certify AD shadow auto. You just have to provide the Ryan account credentials and then the account that we're targeting, which is CA service. And if you have full control permissions or at least write permissions over an account, like we do here, or we will, I guess, when we get full control to CA service, you can write to a property called MSDS key credential link. Which basically allows us to get some secondary authentication material that we can use to non-destructively and non-disruptively, I guess, log into this user here. So we can use the certify AD shadow auto command to get a TGT or a ticket granting ticket, which is how Kerberos does its authentication. And we can use that for some longer term persistence. So let's go ahead and kick that off here. We're going to do the owner edit command again. And we'll see if we get it on the first try. We do not. Still says domain admin, so we're going to run it again. Ignore all of the Python errors, and now we get Ryan as the owner of this account. Coming back here, we're going to grab our DACL edit, and I'm going to grab the whole thing. Okay, there we go. So the DACL was modified successfully. So this time we're going to run certify AD shadow auto, and this is going to be our shadow credentials portion. So you can see it's trying to get a TGT. Okay, and it does successfully get a CGT. So I'll do a quick jump cut there, but you didn't have to wait those extra 10 seconds or whatever. So we got a TGT. So save credential cache to the CA service Ccache file. So this is what we're going to be using to authenticate here for a second. So the cool thing about TGTs is that they will persist through a account password change. So for example here, if we were to run our netexec command where we say, oh, hi YouTube, that shouldn't be the password, right? Because it got set back. However, if we use this TGT, we can log in and you see we get a successful authentication. Now, if we were to run our we can run our bloody AD command, which is right here. Yep, so that should theoretically change the password back to hi YouTube. So we can check and use our hi YouTube login again. Oops, let me get that back. There we go. So now hi YouTube is the password. However, we should still be able to log in using that same TGT, and we haven't made any modifications to it whatsoever. Okay, so that's kind of a showcase of the TGT persistence method. However, we can upgrade this one step farther. By default, a TGT will be valid for 10 hours. If we're able to use that TGT to get a certificate, however, a certificate will be valid until the certificate is actually manually revoked. So we move on from 10 hours of persistence to essentially unlimited unless somebody manually revokes that certificate. So the way that we're going to do that is we're going to use certify again. This time we are passing in our TGT. So this is that CA service.ccache file. And we can use certify AD rec, the request command, using the Kerberos ticket that we have here and no password because we have a ticket. And we're just requesting a certificate from the user template. So this isn't going to be an escalation or anything like that. It's just literally requesting a certificate for the permissions that we already have. So if we go ahead and run that, okay, and that timed out, which is fine and actually kind of typical. So we'll go ahead and run that again, and hopefully we'll get our certificate this time. Okay, and we get this CA service.pfx file. So now we can simulate, hey, maybe it's been 10 hours. We've lost our persistence. So we're removing the Ccache file. But now if we authenticate using that PFX certificate that we just generated, we can get a TGT back. And you see now we get CA service.ccache again, same name. So if we run our netexec command again, the one that actually used our certificate though, that was, yep, this one here. you can see we're able to log in again. So this certificate is a continuous persistence method that we're able to use long term. So that's kind of the end of making the case for the shadow credentials method versus the changing passwords. Obviously, changing passwords is disruptive if you do it too many times. In a pen test situation, your client's going to call you and be like, "Hey, man, are you doing this?" And you're going to be like, "Yeah." And they're going to be like, "Hey, can you not do that?" That's like, it's messing up our stuff. And you'll say, "Yeah, sorry." But if you're using shadow credentials, it doesn't modify anything for the user. The admins can get in, they can use their CA service account and do all of their fun CA service stuff that they're doing. But for now, we can go ahead and finish out this machine. So we're going to use our TGT that we've got. We can enumerate certificate templates using the certify AD find command, and then a bunch of plumbing stuff. But basically, all you need to know is we're using our TGT to run certify find. So we'll run that here. It's going to take just a second to run, and then we should be able to get an output enumerating the certificate templates. Okay, so it just finished here. We can grab this TXT file. This is where our output's going to be, and we'll read that using Sublime just because that's more fun than Terminal. So we have our CA information and then our certificate templates with the nice guy output here that, hey, you have ESC4. So ESC4 is a result of us having full control. You can see we're in the cert publishers group, which has full control over this template. If we have full control over a template, we can modify the template to make it vulnerable to ESC2. ESC2 being one of the more dangerous escalations that we can perform. And from there, we'll be able to get to domain admin. Now, because of the other script that's running on the box, the one that backs up the certificate template situation, we're actually going to have to run these in a time-sensitive fashion too, and there's really no way around that. So I'm just going to prep our commands here. So the first thing that we're going to use is the certify AD template command, which is going to be how we do ESC4. We're going to it'll modify the template for us, actually, and it'll make the Dunder Mifflin authentication template vulnerable to ESC2. I'm also using the save old flag because this is what I do in regular pen test situations. Obviously, the script is going to modify it back to what it was, but if you didn't have that script running in like a real environment, you would want to save old so that you can put the template back the way that it was and not leave it more vulnerable than you found it. After that, our only other time-sensitive command after the template's been modified before it gets set back is we're going to have to run another request here. And this is going to be requesting a certificate that we're going to call CA service ESC2. This certificate is going to be, it's going to have full permissions because we've already modified it here. So it'll have the any purpose EKU or extended key usage, and we can use that to do ESC2 from here. So we'll run those commands here back to back. So this is the certify AD template command. So successfully updated Dunder Mifflin authentication. And then our second command here, oops, got to grab that whole thing, is to get our ESC2 certificate. And hopefully this doesn't fail. Of course it does because we're against the clock here. So we'll run that again. Yep. Okay. So now we get our CA service ESC2 PFX file. So from here, we can use that PFX file to do the ESC3 method of ESC2, which is where you request a certificate on behalf of another principal abusing the certificate request agent EKU. So we're going to be requesting a user template on behalf of the SQL administrator account. That's the SQL Hack the Box domain, not the SQL service or whatever. But this is the SQL domain admin account, and we're supplying a PFX here, the ESC2 PFX that says that, hey, we can do that. We'll run that command here. And it's going to give us an administrator PFX, from which point we can run certify AD auth and use that to get a TGT. So now we are the administrator via that TGT. And we can use that TGT to do arbitrary stuff like run impacket WMI exec against the domain controller itself. Now, if we run stuff like who am I groups, who am I groups, you can see we have SQL domain admins, enterprise admins, all the stuff that you would see in a domain admin context. So from here, you could go and grab your flags and do all the, hack the box stuff. But this is kind of bringing us to the end of the lab here. Hopefully that was a good demonstration of why shadow credentials is a better, in my opinion, way to go about things than doing password changes. But yeah, that's pretty much all I've got for the video today. So again, my name is Brady, and thanks for watching.